Alright, how you doing today? Today I'm going to show you how to make customizable assets. So as you can see, to the right, there's a pair of eyes. Now these eyes are great because it's a custom asset that I can go in and change. Everything is separate. So the eyelashes right here, completely separate. Iris, pupils, all different entities. So I can reuse this and really make my workload smoother and a lot less apparent. So that way I can get into those really detailed animations. So if you click these eyes, they actually open, and if I reverse it, they close. Perfect. So if I want a female character that needs a different pair of eyes, or has a certain eyes that I want, bring these assets in, change these bad boys to maybe blue, totally different eyes, no one will tell the difference. If you look to the left, this is basically an idea of how I got to do this. You see the sketch, which is I just sketched in my sketchbook, brought them in through a scanner, I brightened them with a transparency, which I'll show you how to do. I colored the pupils, which is coloring. I'll show you how to color. And eyelashes, which is outlining and adding the eyelashes. Now today we're not doing eyes. We're going to be doing a mouth as a custom animation, so that way you can see how you can possibly reuse this in the future. So let's jump right into this bad boy. As you can see, right here in Photoshop, let's hide everything else right now. That way you can just focus on this. Perfect. So right here, there's a picture of a mouth. Put this guy down here. And there's actually two mouths. One is hidden. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. Now, they don't look very similar. However, in a basic animation, when you align them properly, they will look similar. So today we're going to be using the pen and the brush tool. So if you press P, you bring up the pen tool. B brings up the brush tool. Now the brush tool is that one in Paint that just paints on everything. Hit Command Z or Control Z to get rid of something you did in the past, which is undo. And P is the pen tool. Now what the pen tool does is it strokes a path between two vertices. So as you see, this point and this point make a line. If I was to right click this line and I hit stroke path, select my brush, hit OK, basically what it did is it painted in that shape. So we're going to use the pen tool and the brush tool simultaneously to ink these pictures. And then we're going to throw it in just a 2-frame animation for a basic idea. So Command Z, escape. Command Z got rid of the painting. Escape gets rid of the vertices and the line left by the pen tool. So if you right click the background and you hit layer from background, hit OK. Now we have two separate layers, one of each mouth. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a layer above the first mouth, and we're going to go rename everything. So we're going to name this mouth 1. Layer above it, we're going to name color trans. Color trans for color transparency. Hit caps lock by accident. Name this one mouth 2. Add a new layer. Bring it above mouth 2. And then color trans 2. So now you have a color transparency and a mouth above each one. Add another layer. Name that one coloring. Add another layer above the second mouth. Add that coloring 2. Go back down. Above coloring, add one naming it outline. And then above eyeball 2, we're going to name that outline 2. So as you can see if I can expand this window for you. I actually don't need these brush presets, so I will get rid of them for now. That way you can see all of the layers at once. So we have outline 2, coloring 2, color trans 2, mouth 2, outline, coloring, color trans, and mouth. Seems like a lot of layers. It's not that big of a deal. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit color trans, and we're going to get the paint bucket. So the paint bucket is right here. Sometimes it's selected as the gradient tool. If you click and hold on it, you can just change it to the paint bucket. And I want you to get a really obnoxious teal looking color. So right here is a pretty good color. And on both color trans, this one and this one, hold Command and click both of them, and you will apply it to both layers. Actually, you You can no longer do that. I lied to you. So color trans 1. Color trans 2. Now both of the layers are green. Perfect. It's exactly what we needed. Now, we're going to end up by getting rid of these layers, but for now, it's just used in order to sketch. So anything that has to do with mouth 2, turn it off by clicking the eyelash. And now, you only have mouth 1 selected. So this is actually the color trans for mouth 1. Click the color trans layer again. Go to layer styles, which is right here. So layers, underneath it, there's a drop-down box. This is different styles to apply to layers. Click overlay. And what it does is it changes our mouth from a darkened color to this green color. Basically, it applies the color to any shadows in the previous layer. So select your pen tool. Actually, excuse me, select your brush tool. If you notice, the brush size is 40. I don't want it to be 40. Way too big. Way too big for inking. So instead, I want something a little smaller. If you press the right bracket, which is right below the equals and plus sign on your keyboard, it actually makes your brush bigger. If you press the left bracket, it actually makes it smaller. So around 25 seems about good. Outline, 25. Too thick in my opinion. Not a fan. Go down a little lower. Too thick still. 15 seems it's going to be about right. Perfect. 15. So get your brush size to about 15. This is going to vary depending on the size of your scan. And now press P. So you bring up your pen tool. Now the pen tool, like I said, brings two vertices together. So if you press these two together, makes a line. If you right click that line, you can hit stroke path. Basically what stroke path does is it's like taking a paintbrush and you just wipe it down a page. Simulate pressure gives you that brush stroke feel, which is why we're using the pen tool and the brush simultaneously. It gives it a real good inking effect. Press simulate pressure. There you go. You have your line. Now, press escape. I want you to select one corner and then the middle of the mouth, which I'm going to say is about here. And if you press and you hold between the vertices and you move your mouse either left or right, you can actually bend the line. So bend the line to shape it to the mouth, the shape that you need. Set that to about good. Stroke path. Hit OK. Hit escape again, and then to do the same thing. So if you actually select between two previous vertices without removing the line, you're going to get this wobbly effect. So to simply get rid of that, just hit escape with everything, and then start over again. Look at that. Perfect. Stroke path. Okay. So it's a little messy there. Didn't like that. I'm going to undo it. It's a little too low. So I'm going to select a little bit. A little higher up. About here. Yep. About here. And drag it out. Still a little wonky. Gotta play with it to get it perfect. I'm just going to start in the opposite direction instead. Maybe backing out will help me a little bit. That looks about good. Stroke the path. Much better. If you zoom in by hitting Command plus or Command minus to back out, click E and you can bring up the eraser tool and you can just clean it out a little bit. Make it a little smoother. Perfect. Actually, a little bit of bump still there. There we go. Perfect. Exactly what we needed. And let's continue inking. Let's get the tongue now. Select between the 2 points. Curve it. Stroke path. If you learn how to use the pen tool properly, the pen tool is one of the most powerful tools you can actually use to ink and animate. Alright. So there we go. We have our basic mouth. Now, turn off everything from mouth 1. And go to mouth 2 by turning everything on for mouth 2. Make sure to hit color trans, apply the overlay, and now you can see it. Now you're probably wondering why this has a green on the side. It's because when I cut out this mouth, there's actually no white background behind it. So if it really bothers you, you can fix it by just adding in the white after, or just turn on the background mouth and it'll go away. So we're going to just start outlining this bad boy. Oh, I almost made a mistake. See how color trans is still selected? And I have my path? I would actually drew on the transparency. Don't do that. Make sure you select your outline layer. If you have problems where everything doesn't blend properly, that is probably why. That is usually the first mistake. So we're just going to keep coloring. See, that has too much bend, actually. So that's too much. We're going to have to fix that one. I'm going to go about here. Sometimes things look really good in sketches, and until you actually do it. So this one still has way too much bend. Sometimes you gotta play with the drawing. See what looks the best in the end, because you don't want it to be bumpy. It's always better to start from the top, by the way, and then go to the bottom due to the fact that you're pulling the bottom layer out. But see, right here, it's going to end up looking like a butt. Kind of looks a little weird. So in order to fix that, just go in, grab your eraser. Nope, too much. We're going to zoom in again and do some doctoring. Bring out your little brush. Smooth this out. Much smoother line now. Continue to ink. So this tongue is actually bent in a little bit. Just a little bit. Just to give it some life to it. So as you can see, the way the path goes, it's going to stroke exactly the way you do it. So that one's a little wonky. Keep going. This one should be much cleaner now. There you go. Actually, that's not the tongue. That's teeth. This is the tongue right here. So that one right here, I think I made a correction. This one's going to be a straight line. Or a straight-er line. There we go. Perfect. Now it's the tongue. I think I ended by changing my mind when I was sketching it. Add the teeth. Stroke. Perfect. Okay. So now that you have the outline done, what you want to do is you want to start coloring. So I'm just going to do coloring too since we have it selected. I'm going to bring up the color white. Now, what I did was I actually went online and I found a picture of an anime. So right here is actually going to be Rukia from Bleach. And what we're going to do is I took the colors from her tongue and her mouth, and that's what I ended up by using to color this picture. So I'm just going to give you an example of that real quick. So here's a picture of Rukia. If you take the eyedropper right here, and you select, for instance, her mouth isn't actually black. It's like a bluish black. So if you select that color, you get that color. And when you bring up your swatches panel, if you click right here, you can actually create a new swatch. So I created the color that was her mouth. I already added that color and the color of her tongue for the shading and the color of her actual tongue. So I'm going to remove that last swatch right there. Just pick it up, drag it into the trash can. Perfect. So Rukia can go away now. Now that I showed you how I grabbed those colors. Now select your pen tool. Double hit escape to remove all the lines. Go back to coloring. Now I have the black of the mouth. Press B, and we're going to begin filling in the mouth on the coloring panel. So just start coloring that in. Don't forget to increase and decrease your brush sizes. Wow, I butchered that. Make sure to increase and decrease your brush sizes depending on if you're closer or farther away. When you drag your brush around, it counts as one action. So if you make a mistake and you cancel it, it's going to get rid of all of that coloring that you already did. So I recommend letting go once in a while before you go closer to the lines, just so you're comfortable with the lines you're going to be making. Lower the brush size, color in. Color that in. Keep going. Now, surprisingly, we're almost done with this tutorial on just how to create basic animations. Perfect. Now, get white, color in the teeth. Now, if you take out the original background layer, and you take out the original mouth, you're going to see the outline you already have. So make sure you color in the teeth completely this way. Because before it looked like they're already white, it's a lie. It's the layers below it. So color in the teeth completely. There's more advanced techniques later on to get shading and stuff. These teeth are a little big for this character, so you can always go in and change it after. But this is just an example. As you can see, Rukia's teeth are clearly much smaller. She's also angled. This is a straight on. Some animators don't like to show the bottom rows of teeth. I am one of those people who prefer to just show the top row when they're speaking in front of you. It's recommended, considering it looks a little awkward otherwise. And now we're going to grab the colors from my swatches. So over here, I'm just going to click the first color, flip it, select the second color. So there's always going to be more of the original color, unless you're having a shadow effect like this Rukia picture on my right that you can still kind of see. So do a majority of the color as a regular color, and then do the shadowing color. Make sure you bring down the brush size to be able to wrap it around the other layer. I'm going to get into some shading techniques real quick after this, just to brush on them. Brush on them, and I'm using the brush. What a pun. Alright, perfect. So you got a basic animation. Now, these colors look a little bit choppy considering they're just pretty straight. So if you click right here, the smudge tool and the blur tool, if you go in there, you can actually blur out the strength of those. Now, if you get to the smudge tool, excuse me as my dog barks because my brother is walking in the house. Get the smudge tool, and you can actually start smudging those animations in. Just make it a nice, soft... Oop, dragged too much. You can just put that back. Smudge tool just smudges the colors around, so as long as they're still there, you can put it back. So there you go. It's a little bit softer now. Okay, so one of these is actually completely done. You can delete the color trans for Mouth 2, and even the original file for Mouth 2, technically. But see, there's still color missing, so I'm just going to go in, fill those in. Get the eyedropper again, grab that black, hit B to go back to your brush. Using shortcuts will really help you. Help you build mechanics in order to produce products faster. I should probably do that for the eyedropper as well, but for some reason I never use it that much. Just fill these in. Perfect. Alright, so now we can completely hide Mouth 2. As you can see, these are actually the basic color palettes of it. We're going to bring out the outline from Mouth 1, coloring for Mouth 1, and we're just going to begin to color these guys. So select coloring. This right here is a tongue, so we're going to grab that swatch again. I don't know why I keep selecting the color, but grab that swatch again. We're going to start with the first color. So the smudging and the blur tool are always good to make something look softer and look a little bit more natural. Nothing in this world is completely solid. Everything, even shadows, are blurred out to our eyes and stuff. So never try to get them perfect, because they're never perfect in your eyes. All we got to do after this is align them, and we're good to go. So keep coloring. So that one up there I'm not worried about because I'm going to be doing the second color after. I bled over into the other frame. It's okay. Using those brackets to continue changing my brush size. Still too much of that other color. That's about good. Going with the smudge tool and everything after. Grab the white. Switch colors, grab that bluish black. Bang these out real quick. I can just show you a basic 2-frame animation and we'll get into more things in the future. Sorry, it's been about half a year before I released this second video. I actually was deciding if I wanted to continue the series or not, considering I don't really use the app I made it for originally, but I am still animating, so might as well teach people as well while I do what I like to do. So I'm trying to get that last little black spot. Perfect. Alright, finally we're going to add the white for the teeth. I'm going to show you how to do just a basic 2-frame animation after this, and we're going to possibly move out from the future after that. Depending on how this video does, I'll release them a little bit more quickly than every half a year. Alright, so there we go. We have both mouths completely colored and completely outlined. We actually only need the 2 outlines and the 2 colors. Now at this point, I want you to select the first 2, and I want you to bring the opacity down. And I want you to try to align them. So align the corners. This one is too small. So I want you to hit Command T on both of those layers, and what that's going to do is it's going to expand the mouth to a point where you can rotate it, you can change the size. So about here is about good. If you bring up the opacity fully, shouldn't change very much. No, not much at all. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, if you look down here, there's an animation window. If you go to Window, Animation, I turned it off, but Window, Animation, check it, you're going to get a window that looks like this. It may look like this. If it does, just click in the right picture on the bottom right, and it changes it to frames. Now the first frame, what we're going to do is we're going to change it to no delay, and then we're going to click this little page icon, like add a new layer, and you're going to get 2 pages. First page, I want you to turn off the top layer. Second page, I want you to turn off the bottom layer and turn on the top layer. And now when you play through them, it changes. Now, if you do, I'm going to slow it down, that way it gives it some type of effect of talking. Usually you would go from a closed mouth to a different mouth. These mouths are very similar. But that's basically a basic animation. And that's exactly how I did these eyes. So, put it in 1 second so you can see. Ta-da! And it moves between the 2 frames. So, if you were to do cycle once or forever, we're going to do 0.1 second delay, 0.1 second delay. You keep going. There's your animation. It's a little basic. I mean, it's just 2 quick frames, but when you have a character that's opening and closing their mouth, it's different considering it looks like they're actually talking. Both mouths are open right now, but I was trying to show there's a little bit right there. You can see I missed a coloring, but at least if you back up, you can see the mouth talk. Now it distorts there due to the fact that the mouth was too small, but right here, there you go. There's your talking mouth, or a laughing mouth of that matter. But thank you for joining us for the tutorial today. Hopefully you learned something about just coloring and shading and just a basic idea of creating custom assets. Now if I save this, I can save both mouths and I can apply them later on. So we'll get into that in a later episode. But thank you for joining. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Depending on how many thumbs up people like it or not is how soon I'm going to put out the next one. I kind of want to do these either once every 2 weeks or once every week if possible. I mean, I'll do it once every week if possible if people really like the videos. I know a lot of people ask questions. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible on the videos as well. So thank you. Have a good one.